Well, good morning, everybody. This is Charles Owen from Paladin. I appreciate you all coming. We are going to get started in a minute or two. Been a few flaky things happening with GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, so I hope everything is fine on your end. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen momentarily. Let's do this. 1 second. Now let's share monitor 1. All right, where's our screen? There we go. Perfect. All right, now just a quick test here. If everybody can hear me, see my screen, please raise your hand just briefly. That'd be great. Ah, there we go. Kimmy, thank you. So I guess everybody can see me. Chris, appreciate it. All right, Nancy, thank you. All right, wonderful. That's great. I'm glad you can all see and hear me and see my screen. We're going to go ahead and get started. So just to kick this off, my name is Charles Owen. Been with the company about 11 years now, and super excited today to be presenting to you information about how Paladin ties in with Excel. Some great information here. Whether you're a passive Excel user or a geek where you just like to go crazy, this is going to be the presentation for you, because in Paladin, we're pushing more and more reports and things to Excel just because of its wonderful tools that it has, and analysis tools and such. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just also to mention, if you get interrupted, customers come first. If you get interrupted and have to go tend to your customers, that's fine with me. You can go ahead and log into the portal site, the Paladin Help portal, and always go in and rewatch this webinar, or you can present it and have it your staff watch it as well if they couldn't attend the meeting. All right. Also, that's about it. It's a rainy, snowy day here in Bend. I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but we decided to get some pre-April showers, I guess we can say. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe in this crazy world that's out there right now. Our thoughts and prayers go out to you, whether you're impacted either economically or with health issues. So God bless everybody. I hope you're all doing fine. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to jump to the first slide here, which talks about what you're going to learn on this particular presentation. So why view data in Excel? Why is it beneficial? We'll go through that. What the relationship between Paladin and Excel is. What are all the different options? How do you get into pushing information to Excel? Lots of different opportunities for that, and many different ways to do it. So we're going to go through all the different modules, starting with invoice quote, through customers inventory, all the way through, all the way down to, at the very end, we're going to talk about the data viewer with Paladin, the powerful usefulness of that tool, and then even I'll touch on ODBC. There are presentations and webinars on some of this material. For example, Paladin Insight, there's a webinar on. There's a webinar on the ODBC, and then some other areas as well. So we'll get into all that. Let's start with why view data in Excel. Why is this advantageous? Well, it's all part of the theme of putting your data to work for you using Excel's analysis tools. Sharing data with others, it gives you that opportunity where you can either email these documents or print them out. You can import data into other programs. Oftentimes, several other programs have APIs that can interpret and read and pull in Excel data. Also, you can save the data for later reference or research. Important requirements. So you have to have Excel on your system. Yes, if you are trying to get into one of the programs that pushes the Excel files, it's not going to work if you don't have Excel on there. That is the only requirement. You have to have Excel. And you can either try running the reports and they'll error out and it'll say, hey, you need Excel. Or if you wanted to look in advance, you can always go into your computer, click the start button and look for Excel. If it's not on there, odds are it's not going to work. So we do offer Office 365 subscriptions. We are a certified gold partner with Microsoft, so we can help you out with that. or you can just go to your local vendor or even log into the Microsoft site, and they can give you access to that. So what's the relationship between Paladin and Excel? How do you get around? Where do you get access to all this information? Well, if you notice in Paladin, we have a lot of magnifying glasses throughout the system. Everywhere where there's a magnifying glass, the example that you see here on the screen is an inventory, the pricing tab, and we've clicked on the stock on hand magnifying glass. And that brings up all the information of how it got to this number, all the quantities received, stock on hands, cost is as well is pushed in there as well. But on the bottom right-hand side, there's a button that says report. When you find a button on the bottom that says report or view in Excel or whatever it might say, it's some of them say different, but it all means the same thing. They all are going to spawn an Excel spreadsheet with the data that you see on the screen pushed into the Excel file. So that's kind of how, the one way that you can generate reports in Excel by using and clicking on each of these magnifying glasses. Each one up there, less the on hold, but stock on hand and the on order, and there's several others on the screen that we can't see behind this window. You'll get the same results. It'll come up. You'll have an opportunity to push that information to Excel. On some programs, at the bottom, there's going to be a button, like the F2, for example. We tried to standardize on that button for Excel reporting. But regardless, if you press on the report button, or you press on the Excel report, or you press on, push to Excel, or whatever the button might be, oftentimes it's not going to actually bring the application up. It's going to push it to the bottom of the screen. It's going to be available there for you at the bottom. So if you notice the little blue arrow on the bottom points up to the Excel icon, that icon usually is highlighted. If you click on that icon, your data will be right there. All right, so let's look at invoice and quote. This is a very powerful module that has a lot of information about the customers, so you can glean information about their buying habits and spending habits, and you can get reports of particular customers' information. Now, this has been put in the system pretty recently, probably in the last year and a half. I was always asked by people, hey, when you're in invoicing and you look at a list of everything that a customer purchased, in this case, if you look at the top left-hand corner, it says customer John Smith. So we've already pulled up the customer on the invoice window. And then we've gone to the advanced lookup history tab. And from there, you bring up an invoice, or you can just hit find and it will bring up all invoices. At the bottom of the report, it gives you an option to produce a summary of the information. Summary of the information will not duplicate items that are of the same. Any of the same items will be contained on a single line versus a report detail. It'll give you the detail of every single line item, including duplicates. So you'll see an example of an Excel document down below. This gives you all the information that you see here is pretty much the same information as above, and it's now in an Excel spreadsheet, so you can do with what you want. The report summary has two prices. It has two prices. One is the lowest price, one is the highest price, because if you're combining all the same products into a single line item, you might actually have different prices at different times. Maybe it's on sale, maybe they get a trade discount sometimes, other times not. So that's a great tool to get information about the customer. Next, stored transactions. So if you go into the recall transaction, the F6 at the bottom of the invoice screen, you'll notice that you can go into either quote, kit, special order, on hold, or delivery. When you do that, it calls up the items, and if you want to take that information, for example, and print out all your active quotes, all your active orders, all your active kits, special orders, on holds, this will push it out to an Excel spreadsheet. Makes it really nice to organize and sort and look at different ones so you can tell if things need to be removed. You can also sort this right here on this screen by order date or, by order date, and that will allow you to put it in chronologically. I think the default is chronological order, but this gives you an option to push this information to Excel. So a lot of people that have a lot of stored quotes in the system, maybe 1,000 or more, need to get in and do some house cleaning. This is a great tool to use to identify those quotes that are still active versus ones that need to be removed out of the system. Moving on to the customer module. And the customer module, as everybody knows, you can get into the customer module, and then if you've got the customer tab down at the bottom, you have an opportunity to push the F4, which will bring up different projects and or authorized signers. Each of these windows give you an opportunity to view this in Excel. So it just pushes that information out to Excel. Not super exciting, but it can be handy if you're managing authorized signers for different customers. All right, moving on. So the next one is view the information of emails. So you might have one or you might have multiple emails. This will enable you to click on view in Excel, and you can push all the emails over to an Excel if you want to do something with those, like integrate them with an emailing program of some sort, like Constant Contacts, for example. All right, moving on with customers. So also in customers, if you go to the credit tab, this is where all the historical data is stored on each of the customers' purchases. So this is we brought up a customer, Mary Smith in this instance, and you'll see there's 3 of these magnifying glasses that I talk about. When you click on, it will drill down into more information. In this case, you can look at the customer-friendly invoices, the accounting department invoices, and you can also look at notes on the customers. By the way, moving back to that other screen, if you didn't know, there is an opportunity to put notes for your customers that are secret and hidden from the customer. But these notes are time-stamped, date-stamped, and employee-stamped, and you have up to, I think, 650 or so characters in each note. So you can put multiple notes in the system. If you want to get a printout or bring that over to Excel, you can do that as well by clicking on that. In this case, we're clicking on the customer-friendly magnifying glass, and at this point, we bring up all of the invoices for this particular customer. So these are the invoices. This isn't the detailed invoices. Now, if you clicked on any one of those line items or clicked on the magnifying glass to the left, it'll bring up the original receipt or invoice on the screen for you, which you can either print or email. In this case, I want to bring up to you the button that says on the bottom says report. This will take all of these invoices and push it to an Excel file. You also have an opportunity to void items in this screen as well. Click on any one of those invoices on that list and press the email button to the right of report, and that will email it instantly from the computer as well. So this is all really handy stuff. In addition to just seeing the purchases or the invoices for this customer, notice on the left-hand side below the blue arrow where it says projects. If you have different projects on the customers or jobs or apartment buildings for property managers or whatever it might be, or you might have different medical facilities that you want to keep separate. All of that is possible by adding a project during the checkout process. Now, when you have projects and you want to look at just the projects for a particular, look at the list of just a particular project, you can do that on that drop down where it says projects, and then you can generate that report to Excel. All right, moving on, inventory module. We've got a lot of these magnifying glasses in the inventory on every single one of these tabs. You'll notice that the first information we're looking at here is, oh my gosh, starting from left to right, we got a shrinkage. We have the alternate part numbers. We have the description 1, description 2 history, on order items, on hold, and stock on hand. Now, I'd mentioned before that on hold doesn't have a viewer, but apparently it does. So we must have added that sometime in the distant past. So all these magnifying glasses will bring up a list. And if I bring up just one example here, I'm going to bring up the shrinkage. It's going to give you the shrinkage history, which has, again, it's going to be in chronological order. And you have all the information you need on who changed what, when, and what the resulting stock on hand was. You want to push this to an Excel report? Very good. Just press the report button. Same holds true with the alt part number, the descriptions, the on order, on hold, and stock on hand. To move on to the next tab, so that was the inventory tab. Now we're on the order control tab. There are 3 more of these magnifying glasses on order control tab. Stock information, so it'll show you the historical stocking changes that you made. Seasonal dates, we also keep track of when the seasonal dates were changed, so you can see a list of that. And suppliers, you can view all of your suppliers for this particular item. And if you're EDI partners, they're going to have different costs as well as broken carton and minimum order quantities and things like that. So that's all information you can push out to Excel by just hitting the report button on the bottom. As we move over to the next tab under pricing tab. So this tab enables us to click on 2 more magnifying glasses. One is cost and the other is price. And any changes or historical views will be attained here by clicking on that button. It'll bring up the viewer and enable you to push that to an Excel report. These are very handy, by the way. If you ever have questions, why is my pricing changing? Come here, click on that magnifying glass, because that's going to bring up all the history of changes that had to do with your pricing. Same with cost. Moving to the next tab, the general tab, there's one additional magnifying glass on here, and that's per location, so you can see the history of location codes for this particular item. All right, moving on to EDI. So EDI is very important. If you're doing electronic data interchange or EDI to your either primary supplier or primary and secondary supplier, it's very important at the end of the EDI process to hit this button at the bottom of the EDI screen that says reporting. Very, very important. The report that you get here will give you all the information. You don't want to just blindly bring information to your inventory, blindly discontinue items, blindly add new items, blindly change the prices. You want to go see and go through and see a list of those. And that's precisely what this does. So if you click on the EDI reporting, it's going to come up to this screen, and you're going to be able to either click on the magnifying glass on the left or click on the generate report button on the bottom. Depending on what your setting is, it's either going to a PDF report or an Excel report, and that is a setting that must be set in, I believe it's Company Tab EDI, if I'm not mistaken. And what's the advantage of Excel is just it's nicer because it breaks out all the different individual events into a separate workbook. For example, the first workbook, as you see on the bottom left-hand side, says invoice details. Just gives you the detail of the invoice, which is a one-liner. All items is the next tab for a workbook, and that'll show you every single item that you brought or touched in your inventory. The next one, you can see where suppliers out of stock of items. You can see where you received items with the max 0 locked or the item deleted. And then you also have an opportunity to see your PDC, Paladin Data Corporation, retail price updates as well. And there's other things as well, new items, replaced items, discontinued items. Those will all have its own individual workbook. So if you're currently getting this report into PDF, it's fine, but PDF gives you everything in one document, where this kind of breaks up, makes it easy for your eyes to follow. This is just another example of the this information expanded out here, showing you each of the different tabs or workbooks and the information that might be contained in those. So again, my recommendation, if you're not reading the reporting function or the reports after EDI, please start doing it now. It's very informative. and you can pick and choose the information that you're interested in. And secondly, if you're generating this report to a PDF, switch it up. Let's go to Excel because I think it's going to be advantageous for you. All right, let's look at Paladin Insights. So not everybody uses this. It's one of those things where you kind of grow into the dials here. It kind of gives you the 50,000-foot view level of how healthy or unhealthy your inventory is. It's important to note that if you go into any one of these dials by clicking on the magnifying glass below, it will bring up the information. For example, all the lost opportunities, those items that you've sold in the past and that you do not have in stock now, that to us is a lost opportunity. To the far right is the non-performing assets. Those are all items that aren't turning. Those items that you purchased hoping you would sell and they're not selling. So you're not going to have 100%. You're not going to be in the green arc down around, between 0 and 25 ever on this one, because the nature of the business is you've got to have some products to sell others, right? Especially on your displays. So it's not going to be perfect, but the neat thing is it brings it all to your attention. Excel is prevalent in each one of these dials. So if you drill down into here and then you want to see a list, you can push it out to Excel. Very handy. Moving on to the PO module. So the PO module, if you go into the recall PO, you're able to take that list of active POs and actually push that into an Excel spreadsheet. Second, if you go into the PO receive mode and you hit find, it's going to give you either your all POs, open POs, or closed POs, whatever you want to do. You set up your criteria on the left under PO details that you see there on the left-hand box. And at the bottom, you have two options. One is to get a received items report, which will actually give you the information that was received in any one of these POs that you see on the screen. So it's a detail about a specific PO versus the received POs report gives you the list that you see right now with all the received POs. In this case, it will push all that into an Excel spreadsheet without the detail. Moving on to the reports module. There's lots of material here, guys, lots of interesting stuff, and we're just getting into some really fun stuff shortly. All right, so reports with Excel options. So we have a plethora of reports in the reports database that give you the option to push data to Excel. So if you're going through these reports, you can literally push based on different criteria and report settings and other additional settings. There's literally hundreds or thousands of different combinations that you can put together in reports that you can generate from this information. And in the cases of the items you see on the screen here, sold report, slow movers, defective parts, comparative revenue reports, report revenue from promotion, customer sales ranking, customer profit ranking. These are all items or reports that you can push directly to Excel. The PDF version is still available for these, but moving on well, here's an example of a screen. This is a comparative revenue report. So we're jumping into the comparative revenue report option. So if you're generating a comparative revenue report and you pick that option to generate it to an Excel document, you have an opportunity to group different departments together, and it will give you the different groups. As you can see here on the screen, this is a sample revenue report that was pushed to Excel. And now, if you notice, we have group undefined, group 2, and group 7. To do this, you can just go into your department file, setup, department dial or tab in the setup area. And within there, on the right-hand side, if you pick a department, you can set a group number there. And you can add that group number to all the different departments that you want to include in that same group. Just put group 5, group 5, group 5. And then when you generate your comparative revenue report and push it to Excel, you can see that information. So as a segue from the reports that you can push to Excel, meaning they're usually default to PDF, and then you have an option to go to Excel. These are Excel-only reports. So these are reports that we produce that just go to Excel, starting with new inventory items, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that report, it's fairly new. It's a great report. So you can see a list based on date frame of when you added items to your inventory. Alternate part number list, discontinued items report, inventory count list, one of my favorite reports, and the rest of them. Auto text items, hourly analysis report, shows you when your busiest times are. Transaction report to Excel, invoice margin report, sales details, tax details report, as well as customer file export and rich rewards loyalty balances. So these are some of the newer reports that we have in the system. We're trying to get to where we either give you an option of PDF to Excel or go just to Excel, because of the analytical tools are so good and so easy in Excel. Moving on to statements. So in statements, we've added something recently that enable you to group the projects for your customers. So let's say you have a property manager coming to your store. They have different apartment buildings. Great opportunity to break that up into different projects as they come in and they buy for different apartments. Also for your contractors and people that want to keep their jobs separate, this is a great tool. Does this print out on the statements that we print hard copies? No. Does it get generated for those emailed copies? Yes. So it will be a nice little file in the email, which will contain all the drop down their projects. However, if you have a customer that gets a hard copy and that wants a copy of this, real simple to do, just go into the customer module, click on generate, look at the past statements, and then you can just say email statements and it'll email this list to them. So Paladin configuration, this isn't super exciting stuff, but just to let you know, if you're in the file setup mode and you're looking at departments or classes or suppliers or employee permissions or units of measure and those types of things, there is a button usually that says export. That export button is equivalent to generate to Excel. Moving on to the data viewer, inventory export. So this is not a training session. I'm just going to share this with you. If you wish to push certain information, you can go into the maintain data viewer, and there's a few tabs in there, such as the inventory, to show an example, where it's going to display information. You can display information on active inventory, catalogs for certain suppliers or all suppliers, pardon me. And then you can push this information to Excel. Now it pushes it to a text file, but you can always recall it in Excel. And it's very tricky. You need to make sure that you want to bring over your preceding zeros. And there is a webinar on this. If you go into Paladin, look at exporting and importing, you'll see this. All right, the last slide here is ODBC. ODBC just stands for Open Database Connectivity. It enables you to bring up Excel, not even bring up Paladin, just bring up Excel. And from within Excel, you can click on external data sources and boom, you've got all the Paladin tables right there for you. And you use the Excel wizard to be able to extract, sort, group by, and what have you, that information. It's very, very simple to do. There is a full-on webinar on this on ODBC. Just search ODBC in Knowledge Base. Guys, I have a couple of questions here that I will try to get through quickly. Looks like, oh, somebody has no audio. I'm so sorry. Oh, we figured it out. Great. All right. And yeah, there's not really any questions. I do want to mention, however, that we are having another webinar. And that webinar is on April 14th. And that webinar happens to be on transform your business with mobile. It's more important than ever nowadays that you have a solution where people don't necessarily have to come into your store. So you can go out and meet them. And we're coming out with some really neat tools here in the next couple of weeks or so. It's just right on the horizon, coming very soon, where they're all-in-one devices. We're going to learn about that. So it's extending your point-of-sale desk to anywhere. So transform your business with mobile, and that's on April 14th. And I think that's it. Oh, so where can you enter notes on the customer tab? So if you just go to the customer module, and I believe it's the what tab is it here? I can show you momentarily because I can take you right back there. So in the customer module, if you go, yes, it's on the credit tab. You'll see here that it's right next to payment history. It's an account notes, so you can enter notes there. All right. Perfect. Well, as always, it has been a pleasure. I thank you so much for your attention. Just again, to remind you, you can go to our website. You can see our latest releases there just by clicking on release guide or yeah, I forget what the word is, but you type in release guide, you'll get what you need. And you can also visit our retail science. So if you want to learn more about better retailing and working in strange worlds like we're in nowadays, we have a lot of new articles coming out that you should take a look at. Also, our webinars, you can go and see this webinar and any other webinar. Again, thank you guys so much. God bless you all, and stay safe, all right? Till next time, thank you.